Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by BAKAR to preview Game Week 9. BAKAR, how are you doing, my friend? We'll have a quick look back at your team from last week. A small green arrow for you, but importantly, and I want to get your thoughts on this immediately, SAKA was the transfer out for you. In came Heung-min Son, and that was a net positive.
Yeah, hi Jack. Thanks for having me. Hello and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Yeah, that was a transfer that worked out well, fortunately. Um, it could have been better had the assist not been removed, but rightly it was because I don't think it was an assist. Anyway, it was a 6 point gain. It was actually a 9 point gain for me because had I kept Saka, my first sub would have been Saliba. So that was huge. In the context of the week, that was a
Wow.
huge decision that
I
went
didn't
in
even
my
realize
favor.
that.
So
Of
yeah, so
course.
it's a 9 point swing. Actually, no, it was an 11 point
11
swing
point swing,
and
yeah.
had and yeah, 11 point swing and had Son got the assist, it would have been 15. But like still, even
Wow.
even without that, 11 points is a lot for one decision, which wasn't really that clear cut, to be very honest. I just made the move because there was no concrete information before the deadline that Saka had traveled. And that is why with three free transfers, I thought might as well make the move.
Yeah, and it makes sense as well, like looking at that block of 4 fixtures for Son. It's not as if you're waiting and you suddenly got really late news that Saka was going to be
And
out for
before
forever. And
anyone accuses me for being part of the cartel, I mean, I'm just gonna say that I updated my team reveal
yeah,
article an hour before the deadline, mentioning very distinctly that this was gonna be my move if there were, no leaks. So yeah, it is just that, and I assume a lot of people were in the same boat as well, with not much to do. One player was an ex-mensed out with three difficult fixtures coming up. The other was declared fit by the manager and had a good run of fixtures coming up. So I'm glad it worked out well. But yeah, there is this cloud sort of hanging over Sun as well. By the way, right now there's just been news coming in that he hasn't been spotted in training, which could maybe throw a curveball down the line this week.
ooh, interesting. I hadn't seen that. There we go.
Yeah, it just came out like half an hour ago.
Okay, recording this on what day is it today? Wednesday lunchtime. Yes. Wow. That's the world of FPL. It's always changing, and that's why you got to watch these videos. And importantly, as you said, check out final team reveals from the guests that we have on the channel. Because yeah, I read that as well, and I saw that BAKAR was moving Saka to Sun unless we got any late team news. And even if we had got like late team news that Saka was out, the move still would have been made. So there we go.
Yeah.
I want to immediately talk about next week and about Saka. You don't have him anymore, but a lot of us still do. What's the latest news on him? What would you do with him?
Well, the latest news is that he wasn't in the squad last night for the Champions League. And post-match, Arteta did mention that he hasn't trained at all. So it seems unlikely that he'll make Liverpool. But then again, I don't trust Arteta at all. I mean, last week he was positive about Saka in the press conference, and look what happened, right?
Yeah.
So there's no point of trusting the guy or counting on any information he provides. Yeah, I suggest that you wait till Friday because it's a Friday deadline, right? So I'm sure there will be some kind of information that comes out of the Arsenal training ground whether or not Saka has trained, and if he has trained, then I think you can probably keep. If he hasn't, then it's a different matter altogether, and then you'll probably have to look for replacements. I think Son and Palmer are the standouts, personally. I got Son in with the view of moving him on for Palmer in 12 when Chelsea have a good run of fixtures. And another sort of reason which sort of pushed me towards the Son captaincy was the fact that his fixture at home to Ipswich in Game Week 11 was very appealing, where I was potentially even considering Son as a potential captaincy option. So you've got to take these kind of things into account. But then again, if you pick Palmer right now, he sort of saves a move from Sun later. That's the
Yeah.
way I look at it for most structures, not necessarily for every team, but for most structures. A lot of people might not have the funds available to jump to Palmer straight away. So I guess Sun is the natural replacement for them, which makes sense. But if, for example, someone has multiple free transfers, then they can even look like, move from, let's say, um, Saliba to a cheaper defender and Saka to Palmer. So it's very team dependent. I think for most teams, most people will be tight on funds. So I assume Son will be the natural make weight. But if someone can afford to jump to Palmer, then I think I would slightly prefer Palmer over him. But it's very close because, as I said, there is a very good case for a captaincy shout for Son in 11 as well. But all of this is again fitness dependent. We've got to wait for news on Son. The good thing is Ange Postecoglou is very transparent in his press conferences. So I'm sure we'll hear something today. There's every chance that he's just being rested in the European fixture because they don't want to risk him. But we'll hear what Ange has to say, and I'm sure he's going to provide us with some clarity.
Yeah, this is the thing with like looking at game week 10 and 11 now in particular. I don't know. We'll get to Haaland in a little bit, but just captaincy is becoming more of a factor in those weeks, where it hasn't really been as much over the previous weeks. I guess we've all sort of, or a lot of us have gone Haaland. It hasn't worked out. People that have gone to Salah, especially last week, have done a lot better. Do you have any plans to get him in your team? He is the highest scoring player in the game right now. He looks in amazing form. Is he an option for you going forward?
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I want to save a transfer this week because I want to have a bit more information before I act on, uh, you know, act on doing some surgery in my team. Because currently I have three free transfers. I want to go into next week with four. Haaland is definitely an easy keep this week. After this week, I'm not so sure. I think it's a very subjective call on whether or not to sell or keep him because there's no hard reason to sell him because the fixtures are still all right. And even against Bournemouth next week, I mean, it's Haaland, right? He can easily haul. It's a good fixture. But then again, the thing is that you can argue that Salah, for example, in 12 against Southampton is more optimal than Haaland, right? There's one case, let's say one side of the coin, which will say one narrative will be that Haaland and Son will cover captaincy and you don't need to move to Salah. The other will be that selling Haaland will free up funds for, let's say, Trent, Salah, Palmer, all these guys, right? So it depends on how things are looking like next week, but I want to leave that option open of selling Haaland in 10 if need be. Currently, I don't really have a strong opinion on that matter. But it's definitely something I've looked at because I don't have Trent either. Remember, and I don't have an obvious route to Trent in my team. So selling Haaland will open up that avenue for me as well. Something like
Oof.
Haaland to a cheap striker, maybe even Darwin. I mean, if Jota is out for a while, maybe even
Wow.
Darwin, something like that. Haaland
Wow.
to Darwin, go triple Liverpool for those fixtures. Um, I mean, the fixtures aren't amazing from a defensive point of view, but home to Brighton, home to Villa, away to Southampton in particular, those fixtures should bring about plenty of goals. So yeah, I'm not exactly opposed to the idea. And there are plenty of cheap strikers as well. I mean, I'm just giving Darwin as an example. There's Cunha, there's Evan Nilsson, all these guys are doing well. So Raul Jimenez. So I want to keep that option open. I think we'll see plenty of divergence and variance in teams in the weeks to come because a lot of people will go down different paths. But I think this is like the calm. This week is like the calm before
Yeah.
the storm, before everyone really makes those big moves next week.
One thing that I love doing on the My Team tool on Fantasy Football Hub is jumping ahead in weeks to come and putting in transfers and seeing how the team looks. And guys, if you want to do the same, as you can see on screen, you can jump ahead week by week. If you don't know this, then you should by now. But if you don't, no worries. You can jump ahead week by week and see how your team is looking, see your gaming rating, your team rating, and then also do some transfers as well and see how that looks. We're currently offering a 7-day free trial. So if you click the link down below, go ahead, try it for the current game week, see how you like it. If you don't like it, you can always cancel. But I'm pretty sure you won't want to after seeing what you can do with the My Team tool in particular. So with that in mind, I know you said this is the week of the calm before the storm. Let's just have a look at game week 10 and just tell me right now, if this was to be game week 10 and we have no new information, what would you think you'd do with your team? I know you just went through a couple of scenarios, but what are you leaning most towards?
Yeah, it's a tough question actually right
Yeah.
now. Currently, the rough sort of idea in my head is to probably sell Haaland for a cheaper striker, get
Wow.
Salah in for let's say one of the budget mids that I have, maybe one of Semenyo Rogers, and upgrade one of my defenders to Trent, maybe Saliba to Trent, or maybe one of the cheaper defenders to Trent, maybe Lewis to Trent, something like that, right? But obviously nothing is set in stone, and I'm sure the plans will change. I mean, Haaland gets a hat trick this week. My plan might change. It's fine. The key thing is that I'm actually glad we're not sitting in game week 10 and I don't have to make these decisions
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the ramifications of these decisions could be big, right? So I'm just happy I don't have to make that decision right now.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it and just seeing how it looks with doing those moves, and it's a massive change to your team, obviously. But that's what happens when you unlock those funds from Haaland.
Yeah, huge ramifications as mentioned, right? So that's the thing. But then again, I'm not exactly set on these moves because I think Holland and Son cover captaincy fine for me this week. It's more about what the extra funds will open up in terms of getting Trent, etc. Because currently, when I look at my team, I have a route to Palmer in the form of Son, but Trent, I'm not so sure how I can get to him.
Is Trent someone in your mind that you really need to get to for those three fixtures?
I mean, that's a good question. That's a good question, but I think I would rather have him than not, would be my answer. I don't think he's essential for Brighton at home and Villa at home, but then for Southampton, I would really want him
Yeah, it's
in
just
12.
whether you think it's worth it to get him in when the fixtures then become a little bit challenging afterwards as well. You know, City at home, Newcastle away. Is it worth? Because that's the thing, when you get
Yeah.
when you get the most expensive player in each position, it does require two moves to get there most of the time.
Yeah.
Just whether you think it's
Yeah,
worth it.
you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. And that's why I'm not exactly set on the move either. I mean, it's a very tough call. And I mean, I can totally see a world where I'm sitting here next week and probably just thinking of rolling again
Yeah.
because the team still is fine.
Okay, let's talk about some other players in your team. Saliba, he's only going to get a one match ban, am I right? So he's just going to, well, he is. He's
Yeah.
only going to get
He's
one
just
match
gonna
ban. So
Yeah, he's
he's
gonna
just
miss the
chilling there.
Liverpool fixture. He's
Yeah.
gonna miss the Liverpool fixture, and I wasn't gonna play him anyway
Yeah.
this week, so it's fine. If there was ever a fixture, I'd be happy for him to miss. It's the Liverpool fixture. Uh, and yeah, and after next week, I'll see what to do with him because after next week, then Arsenal have Newcastle and Chelsea, which isn't great either. And this seems like an ideal time to jump off him if you sort of need that defender in my team. So, for example, in my team, I have Lewis, Porro, and Gabriel, who are three equally good defenders. So I don't necessarily need to sell Saliba, but for others, they might not have the same bench depth. In which case, it's fine to sell him because the next three fixtures aren't ideal,
Yeah.
and I don't think I'll be playing him in most of those fixtures anyway.
Yeah. That's completely fair. I suppose the question then that comes to my mind now is, who are you thinking of playing from your defenders this week? Because
Yeah, I think Porro picks himself, Lewis picks himself because Walker is injured, so I'd expect Lewis to start. Who does that leave me with? It leaves me with Mikalenko and Gabriel.
well,
I think
it's
that's going to
interesting
be
that you say that Porro picks himself, because according to the predicted points here, he's the one that's going to be benched.
I can't bench for him, man. I mean, I've watched him a lot of times this season, and he's top for shots among defenders. And every single time I look at him, he's been like Ezen Fernandez. Basically, he's teasing us with
What
those
rubbish?
shots, with those chances created, but he's been rubbish in terms of output,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, I'll just go with what the numbers say, what the eye test says, and it says that Pedro Porro is an very exciting pick. So I'm definitely gonna start him. So for me, it's going to be between Gabriel and Mikalenko.
Yeah.
I think it's a very close call. I looked at the odds. Arsenal have like a 25% chance of a clean sheet. Everton have 24%. It's negligible, really.
Ooh.
I am maybe 1%. I think they are 51 to 49% leaning towards playing Gabriel over Mikalenko, but it's just that one extra percent that I have on Gabriel because of his additional goal threat.
Yeah.
But there's not much between it. Now, Arsenal have Calvert-Lewin injured as well. Saliba suspended. So there's every chance that those odds drop before the deadline as well of the probability. And if they do, then I might even play Mikalenko. So I'll have a look at the bookmaker probabilities before the deadline. I'll see how close they are. If they're still, very close, then I think I will probably favor Gabriel because of his attacking threat. But if Everton are ahead, then I might play Mikalenko.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because obviously, yeah, Gabriel, it is Gabriel's goal threat, which is the main reason why you play him, I think, in this fixture. I don't think anyone would really expect him to keep a clean sheet. However, I didn't realize that Mikalenko's clean sheet odds would be as low as they are. I thought they'd have a much better chance, to be honest, than Arsenal.
Yeah, it's probably because there's that doubt over Branthwaite and
Yeah.
and also that Fulham have been playing exceedingly well. More of that
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, 100%. Okay, let's move on to talk about some other players in your team. Well, the sort of fringe players, I suppose. I mean, we don't need to talk about Mbermo, even Haaland. He's obviously going to stay. Maybe a quick word on triple captaincy on Haaland. Is it something you're considering at all?
Uh, it is, but I don't think I'll go ahead with it.
Okay.
It's not something I've written off, but for the same reasons that I mentioned in Game Week 2, that generally I tend to go for double game weekers. Um, there is a chance that Chelsea potentially double in January. Again, that's contingent on certain things happening, but there's a chance it might happen. Apart from that, even if it doesn't go ahead, there will be other fixtures. For example, Salah will face Southampton at home. Uh, Palmer will face Ipswich at home. There will be fixtures where the opportunity to triple captain will present itself later in the season. So I'm just not sure whether I should go ahead with it this week, because I think the opportunity cost of not triple captaining Haaland this week is quite low, because there will be other opportunities later in the season. And let's say if I'm chasing rank, I might as well go with the differential at that point as well. So I'm currently all right with the idea of swerving the triple captaincy, if I'm being honest right now.
Yeah.
But it's something that will be at the back of my mind before the deadline. But currently, I'm leaning against it.
9.0 points is his predicted points this week, and I cannot remember ever seeing 9 points in a single game week ever. And that is with Haaland out of form. I mean by that predicted points. Obviously, Haaland has exceeded 9 points before, but to have that as a prediction, and obviously a prediction has to be relatively cautious, given that 2-pointers happen a lot. Obviously, Haaland is the sort of player that can go and get 21 points or whatever, 17 points with a hat trick. But yeah, 9 points is very high. I think for me, the thing that swings it is just, he's not in great form right now. They don't look great going forward, and De Bruyne is out. So I think for me, it's a pretty simple decision. Let's move on though to the three other players that I just want to touch on in your team. Bruno did well for you this week in a very low scoring week. To get any return from any player was quite important. But then Solanke and Calvert-Lewin up front, maybe not as good. Just your thoughts on those three.
Yeah, so Bruno, I guess, I mean, I said last week that I'm going to keep him for the next 6 weeks. My plan is to sell him in game week 14 after the fixtures are gone. But now the fixtures for United are actually pretty good. West Ham away, Chelsea, Leicester, Everton, Ipswich. It's a good run for Man United. So I'm happy keeping Bruno Fernandes. Uh, I mean, Calvert-Lewin has been very frustrating. 5 big chances missed in 4 games. But I feel as if a return is not too far away, because I would rather be in a position where my player is getting the chances and not taking them, as opposed to be in a position where he's not getting the chances at all. So everything that Everton do is actually funneled through him. He's getting the bulk of the chance. I'm sure it's a matter of time before he scores again. Fulham will be missing Joaquin Anderson actually, which is
Oh,
quite
okay.
significant, because he's their best defender. He was red
Yeah.
carded last week, and even Lukic is a bit of a doubt heading into the weekend. So Fulham will be without quite a few of their players. I watched their game at the weekend against Villa, and with Sander Berge, and he was playing as the holding midfielder. They didn't exactly look very resolute at the back. Villa had plenty of opportunities to cut through them, and I expect Everton to score against them. And if they do, I would back Calvert-Lewin to be involved.
Okay, and Solanke, is he just completely fine to hold with those fixtures? You're not going to look to move him
Yeah,
on.
I don't think we need to talk about Solanke, because the
Okay.
fixtures are still amazing. I mean, there's no reason, not even one single good reason to sell him at this point.
There's just been a little bit of chat that he's sort of in the Firmino role for this Tottenham team, and maybe that doesn't lend itself to points. But you're not going to sell him, are you? Yeah.
It's 2 games, right? Before that, in the previous 3 games, he had 7 big chances. So, I mean,
Good
there's no
point.
point of nitpicking sample sizes and saying that he's playing very deep, because in the previous 3 games, he was playing a very, very attacking role, where he was getting the bulk of the big chances going his way. So it's fine. Overall, when you look at his stats from the time he's joined Spurs, he's been a huge threat.
Yeah, completely fair. Okay, I want to ask you about 2 players that you don't have, but they are present in some teams, some sort of mid-price midfielders.
Luis Diaz, I guess.
Luis Diaz is one, and Phil Foden is the other. Phil Foden came into some teams this week. Both great players. The obvious sort of problem with both of them right now, that we haven't necessarily seen from either of them before. I mean, we have, but we also haven't. When they get a run on the side, they are very, very solid players. It's just the minutes, and we can't trust either of them, can we?
I think Foden will start this week.
Do you?
I generally
Okay.
do, because I think the team that Pep picked against Wolves was very much opposition dependent, where Wolves did have exactly, they did have some pace on the break. He was kind of worried with, because he played Bernardo Silva as well. It sort of gave me the impression that he wanted to have a lot of control in the team to avoid being caught on the counter. But against Southampton, I don't think they're gonna have that kind of risk, especially at home. So I fully expect Foden to start this week, and I think if you have him, we keep him. Luis Diaz, I think, is a sell, because the fixture is tough, and we're not even sure whether he's going to start anyway. And I mean, I still think the best replacements are Bruno and Eze, depending on whichever one you like. Again, they played really well this season without having the points to go with them, but uh, their historical underlying data suggests that they should have points coming their way sooner rather than later. So yeah, I think Diaz, I would rather sell him for one of Bruno or Eze, depending on whichever one of them you can afford.
Okay, before we wrap things up, I just want to finally have a look at your AI recommended transfers for this week because they are very interesting. The AI, Fantasy Football Hub's AI, and guys, if you don't know what this is, look at the top of the screen right now. This is your personalized recommended transfers for your team based solely on Fantasy Football Hub's AI. That's all the points, all the predicted data, all the stats fed into the machine, and it spits out this for you to consider. Look at these for some recommended transfers. BAKAR, you have 3 frees, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And it's recommending you to use all 3 this week. Solanke, Bruno Fernandes, and Saliba out for Wood, Palmer, and 8 Nouri. How about that for aggression?
I mean, the AI model has been recommending Wood for weeks, and I keep ignoring it every single week. And uh, I keep ending up with egg on my face because Wood has been a very good player to own. But then again, I don't see a very strong reason to sell Solanke or Bruno. I can easily bench Saliba, so it's fine. I don't need to sell him either. I think, let's say if this was the last week of the season and if I was making aggressive transfers, I mean, these moves would have been ones I would have considered, but not when I'm looking at committing major surgery or harakiri in my team next week potentially. So I think I just roll the transfer and see where we end up next week.
Yeah, this is the thing. This is a very aggressive moves, which you don't often see from the AI. But the reason is, just looking at the predicted points, there is a big difference there. But yeah, food for thought nonetheless. If you did want to go aggressive, maybe if you're thinking, you know what, I'm actually not having that much fun this season, just playing boring. I want to do something fun. I mean, look at the players you're bringing in here. 8 Nouri and Palmer especially. Those are fun picks, and Wood's in arguably the form of his life. So yeah, guys, if you wanna get your own personalized recommended transfers, as I said, 7-day free trial. Try it. If you don't like it, you can cancel for free. Obviously, that's what a free trial means. But yeah, link down below in the description and the pinned comment. BAKAR, thank you very much as always, my friend. Good luck this game week.
Pleasure, my bro.
And your team reveal, as always, your final team reveal will be posted before the deadline, as you always do, as you did last week, as you'll do this week. Remember, guys, Friday deadline this week. Good luck, and we'll catch you on the next one.